A lot of people have been excited about this one, the Honor Magic 4 Pro. Wanted to see the full review, so here it is. This phone is actually very interesting. It feels almost kind of like a blast from the past. There's definitely some DNA here from Huawei, maybe even kind of like the Mate series. Massive camera module on the back, and that's housing some serious camera stuff. So we got a time of flight sensor, two 50 megapixel cameras, and a 64 megapixel camera. It's got that 64 megapixels, a periscopic telephoto lens. You can reach out 100 times zoom on this one, kind of like on the S22 Ultra. You can really reach out and touch stuff with this, and it's got some serious capabilities. Of course, the time of flight sensor helps out with depth to allow you to do your good portrait shots and all that stuff. Also interesting and of note, so we've got a 12 megapixel camera here. You got this pill-shaped capsule kind of cutout when it comes to the screen, and what that does, there's also the time of flight sensor and a 12 megapixel camera. You can get true portrait shots that way. You're not doing anything software-wise, trying to manipulate it with one camera. And also for advanced biometric, because the scanning for the facial scanning is a bit more secure and I think is better when it comes to this. And that's helped out by that time of flight sensor, helping with the depth as it scans your face instead of just an image. So you can't really fool this one, at least not to my knowledge, with just like a photo of somebody. So there are some interesting things here. Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, and this one I have the 256 model with 8 gigabytes of RAM. It's a full-blown flagship when it comes to the Android world. And a lot of people are excited about this because you have a lot of people that really like the Huawei brand, and Honor was part of that. Now it's branched off on its own, so it means it can have Android and all the other niceties that we probably want. It does feel, though, a little on the clunky side. So Magic UI, I've never used it before prior to this. If I were to go, okay, I like One UI, I like stock Android, I like just the different ones, list them going down. This one right here, probably maybe fourth or fifth down. It's not quite up there, maybe about the same as MIUI. MIUI feels a little bit more polished. This one, I think with some more time, they'll make it better. It seems like they do kind of do a couple of things on their own just to do it. It reminds me a lot of LG and their user interface, just the way they're like, here, we'll do our own service, we'll do our own thing, when they could have just left it alone with like a stock version. It would have worked out just fine. But the experience is good. I haven't had any crashing, haven't had any bugs, no problems. Android 12 works good on here. Nice responsive screen. The screen here is gorgeous, and this phone is gorgeous. I absolutely love this cyan color that's on here. It looks really nice, feels premium, big, huge screen. I have a complaint though. I like curved edge displays, and I feel like Samsung does it the best. And this is not Samsung is the best at everything. Hear me out on this. When it comes to this phone, it has a very, very, very aggressive embedded over the side curved edge display, which means when you're viewing some stuff, it can wrap around the side. Also, it just feels kind of weird. And also, you accidentally touch the sides on stuff. Sometimes you're kind of covering it up with your hands. It doesn't feel as responsive around the edges as I would like it to, just because that curve is so aggressive. It's a very, very aggressive curve when it comes to having a curved edge display. Now, as far as premiumness, looking nice, it does all those things. But it feels almost kind of like a curved edge display from about 3 years ago when they were overly aggressive and people didn't like them as much. Like you can see here, it really just kind of even alters the silhouette of the screen when you're looking at it. But very, very minimal bezels. I have mixed feelings about that cutout. The time of flight sensor is nice. I feel like maybe they probably could have put them a little bit closer together. You can see the lens there and the lens there. I don't know. It feels a little intrusive. Now, depending on when you're doing things, it doesn't really feel like it gets in the way. But it's like it's always there. You could probably change your wallpaper. A lot of times, it was funny, like when the Samsung Galaxy S10 and S20 came out before, they put different wallpapers on there to kind of try and hide the cutout for the camera on the front. They didn't do that here. It's like a blue background, and then bam, you get the cutout there. But very capable camera, 4K 60 on the back, 4K 30 on the front. I wish it had 4K 60 on the front. I don't know what it is. Maybe this isn't a prioritization in the US market. The Samsungs, the iPhones, those flagships here, they do 4K 60 on the front and the back, and I appreciate that because I like to record in 4K 60. I'm recording at 4K 60 right now, but 4K 30, I think is the bare level entry minimum you have to have, especially since this phone retails, I think for about $1,199 is what they were saying. This is a really expensive phone, and that concerns me because you're only getting 2 years of operating system updates, 2 years security updates, not really available here in the US. Surprisingly, though, it works with 5G. So I've got my T-Mobile SIM card. I've used it in here, tested it. 5G works like a champ. So I was really surprised by that. Network connectivity with foreign phones is always a concern. This one, it actually works with the phone, so I was impressed by that. The speakers are nice, stereo sound. When it comes to protection for the phone, you're covered with IP68 dust and water resistance, which is nice. That means that if you accidentally drop it into water, you're covered up to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. This thing can stay submersed underneath the water. Kind of uncanny how they do that. I really recommend you don't take it near the water. But if you feel like you should, then yes, you're covered 1.5 meters up to 30 minutes. Also, one thing you'll notice on the back here is a fingerprint and dust magnet, and that's just one of the things that comes with this finish, this glossy high shine finish, and the color that's on here. It will show that stuff on here, so you're going to be continually cleaning it. I recommend keeping a microfiber cloth nearby or putting a case on it, and the case that comes with it actually works pretty well. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of aftermarket cases. I wanted to get one, and thankfully it also has a screen protector built in already. You're going to be hard-pressed to find those, but check them on Amazon. There's a few here and there. Not a big selection, though, which is kind of disappointing. It's got a huge screen on it, 6.81 inches, one of the biggest in the biz. It's got 1,000 nits brightness, HDR10+, everything you could ask for in a big, beautiful display. I think 1,000 nits is fair whenever it comes to looking at flagship phones. Not all of them are going to be like iPhone and Samsung, where they're pitching those post-1500 nit brightness, peak brightness kind of things, which is nice. But it basically sears your retinas. Like, this is not something you want to see in the middle of the night when your alarm's going off, when you wake up first thing in the morning and your eyes are not adjusted. 1,000 nits, I think, is good, though. You can see it well enough outside to where you can still use it. And then when you're inside, this thing, it looks great. You got this LTPO display, throttles down the refresh rate. And the refresh rate, 120 hertz, totally love that. It's one of those things where it kind of can bounce back and forth. So if you're just looking at images, just looking at the home screen, not doing anything, it doesn't need to run at 120 hertz. That helps save some of the battery. The battery, 4,600 milliamps. I wish it was 5,000. With as dense as this is and as big as it is, I really feel like it should have 5,000. It has 4,600, which is okay. When it comes to the charging, though, it gets you recharged quick, fast, and in a hurry. So with this phone, wired charging, you're looking at 100-watt wired and 100-watt wireless if you have the compatible wireless charger. The wired charger comes in the box, the wireless one does not. So with the wired charging, you get 100% in about 30 minutes. That's crazy fast. And even though if you use it wirelessly, 100 watts, you get half of the charge in 15 minutes. That's just insane. So even if you have headache, heartache over the 4,600 milliamp battery, it should last most people all day. But even if it doesn't, throw it on the charger for a couple of minutes, you're good to go. You can plug this in and you can watch the battery percentage go up like every couple of seconds, several times in a minute. It's really uncanny to where we're at with the battery charging technology now. But a lot of great things go on here. Wired charging, wireless charging. When it comes to biometrics, it's pretty stacked as well. It's got a under the screen fingerprint sensor, which works pretty well. Nice, reliable, no problems with this one. Definitely better than the Pixel's been for most of the year since it's come out. I'm probably going to use that joke for a while. But overall, I like the fingerprint sensor on here. It works well. And then you've also got facial recognition, so you can scan your face. Nice, quick, fast, and easy. So you're covered there as well, which is also a nicety because like the Pixel 6 doesn't have it. Hopefully the Pixel 7 does. So overall, I give the Biometrics an A+ on here. They work out pretty darn great. There's plenty of storage options on here, lots of memory configurations, 3 to be exact. You can get it in 256 and 8, which is what I have, or you can get it in 256 and 12, and then you can get it in 512 and 12. So different options there. You got to pay more to play more. So I don't know. Depending on your needs, you might want to go ahead and maybe the middle one might be good. I'm perfectly happy, though, with the 8 and the 256 option. It works fine for me. I don't know a lot that's out there that really requires 12 gigs of RAM, and don't take this out of context. I was just mad about the S22 Ultra because they started it with 8 and they backpedaled on it when it came to that flagship model so they could charge less money. But anyway, that's a whole nother philosophical conversation. In pretty much any instance, 8 gigs of RAM is going to be totally fine, and you can go up to 12 if you want and get more storage, which is always nice. We like options, especially since we have less options since there's no SD card storage on here. No headphone jack, but you can plug it in 24-bit audio on the bottom. It also has Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.2, so you have basically the latest and greatest in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth technology. Great for listening to your audio, great for getting fast download speeds if you have Wi-Fi 6 stuff at home or wherever you're at. So Really, I do like the phone. I've been enjoying using it. It has pretty good, pretty strong haptic feedback. The cameras are top notch on here. The primary cameras are good. I do still feel though, I think that the iPhone and the Pixel and the S22 Ultra, in some ways, it's one of those things where sometimes it looks better, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe that's just some inconsistency with the programming. Maybe it's the camera app. The hardware here is top notch. The cameras are top notch. And it does take some good photos. I've seen other people take amazing photos. You can see these photo samples that I've taken. And I was able to go out, take some pictures, and really enjoy using the phone. The only complaints I've really had about it, though, I think the curved screen's a little too aggressive. But other than that, 250 megapixel cameras, a 64 megapixel, you get 4K video, Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, power for days. One thing that surprised me is it doesn't really get hot. Like, they did a good job mitigating the heat on this phone. I didn't find that it got otherworldly hot. I played games, I played Apex on here, and I expected it to get hotter, especially with my experience with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, which gets blazing hot. Honor did a pretty good job here, and I think it's a solid phone. The only reservations I really have, I think the price, probably a little more than people are going to want to pay, especially here in the States when you have some other options available that you can get for less or the same price. And then I just think the curved edge screen is a little aggressive. But other than that, the screen is beautiful. I love using it. It does feel a little bit kind of like a Huawei design that they kind of took and changed up a little bit and turned into an Honor phone. But as far as my first experience using an Honor phone, really impressed. I like it. Build quality solid. It's pretty dense and heavy. This is a quality premium feeling phone if you're into having a heavier phone and not one that's lighter, feels hollow or plasticky. Feels like they put a lot of work into this, and it's a nice phone. If you want to get one, you want to pick it up, I think you're going to be happy with it. Just understand, a little bit on the expensive side. I don't know what you're going to be able to get it for here in the US, trying to pick one up. But hey, I was surprised it works with 5G. The cameras, especially with this big, huge camera module, have been surprising. I think it does take good shots. So that's pretty much all I got. I'm going to wrap this one up. If you have any questions or comments, please go down to the comment section and I will get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. And I'll see you guys next time.